Hey, we're back and recording now. Thank you, Kathy and Misty, for sharing. I'm sorry, all of you who missed the first part. It was just a bunch of house cleaning saying, don't be mean. This is a beautiful community. We love each other. And you can share your cute purse you just bought or your cute new haircut or your cute child. That's why I showed you my hair, because I can't do it in like my Facebook page with a bunch of men looking at. That would be weird. My husband wouldn't appreciate that. So we're going into Bo. Bo is the name and the title of this parsha. And I was saying is that we're going to review the last 3 plagues. We're going to go into Passover. And I was talking about, I want to hear from each one of you. How many people have this is your first time going into Passover? I want you to let us know that, whether you're watching here on Facebook, if you're watching in a cafe, put it in the comments. Tell me your story. Tell me your first time if this isn't your first time. And if it is your first time, let us know. We do have a prepping for Passover course over in the cafe. I am 100% willing to send that to you. It's just, you can more be happy. There's printables, coloring pages for your babies, recipes, some help. If you, some of you need to maybe look at it and say, we need to add this, this, and this. I want all that input. So let us know, info@the-rooted cafe, and we will send that to you. Happily send that over to you so you can look at it. It is not exclusive, so I'd be glad to share. So I'm looking at this word, guys. I'm looking at the word, and it's the word for this portion is bow. And I feel like I couldn't even leave that word for a long time. And I do most of my, let's be full disclosure, I do most of my portion study where I grab my big, have my Halisa book, and I'll sit down with it and do my homework tomorrow. I'll do it tonight and tomorrow. That's when I get to do that. And I get to do my, ready study stuff. But you guys challenge me because I have to like get up early Friday mornings and start early and go in. But I'm praying and I'm like, Bo, I can't get off of this word. So I'm going to share my screen, y'all, and I'm going to show you, for those of you who are smarty pants and you already know all this, I want you to go get coffee, go potty for me, because I'm going to show them how to do something that maybe they don't know how to do. So let me see. Escape from there. Okay. And all of y'all pray for my internet today. Now, I am not going to go through every single step of this morning, because we do offer a class and it is absolutely free. It's a quick few videos of Brenda and I going through how to use the Blue Letter Bible. It's called the Blue Letter Bible for Not So Dummies. Please email us and say, hey, you know what? Someone remind me that I need to add that to our store, so I can just send you to the store and you can just go click on these things. I'm going to write it now. Free courses on store. Okay. So as you don't know, if you go to therootedcafe.com, we do have a little store. It's ugly. We're revamping. We have starting some cute t-shirts in there, and there's links there sometimes. If we're talking about, like, we're going to be adding more, like maybe we're talking about Halisa study, or I know for sure there's links to some of the Becky books that we talked about in the conference. Okay. So you guys see my screen? I need a yes. Let me see some heads nodding. Okay. So y'all see, this is what Blue Letter Bible looks like. Keep me on track. Someone like unmute yourself and say, stop chatting. We need to move on. Okay. We're just going to stay here for just a second. Look at this is Exodus 10:1. What I did is I typed the verse in the top and it brings me here. I am going to click on Exodus 10:1 because I just want to see just this verse by itself. And here it is. And guess what this all is? Hebrew. Guess what? I can't read Hebrew. Okay. So most of you don't read Hebrew either, but isn't it fun that you could try? You could actually, if you're starting to go through some letters, you could be like, I know, hey is my favorite letter. Hey, I love, someone did a hey y'all. Can't even stand you. You're my new bestie on here. I think it was yesterday you posted it. So here's the hays. Look at, there's a hey, and there's a hey, and there's a hey, and you can see the hays. And we know that's an aleph. So that's how I do things, for all of you know. This is the Fisher-Price version. Thank goodness Brenda's not here. She's probably curling in her shoes listening to this. So this is what I do. I go through it. I'm like, oh, that's a shin. I know a shin. I know that. And I know that's a lamed. And so as I'm learning the letters and I know the energy behind the letters and I know what those means, they're alive to me. I don't know what the words mean. I can't pronounce the word, but I know some of the letters, and this is exciting. And I apologize, they're doing road work outside. So I'm going down here. And the Lord said unto Moses, go, Bo. Guess what? That's the name of this parsha. So I'm going to click on this one. And I just want to chat with you guys about this for a minute. This is the root. We always go to the root of whatever the word is because we want to know the action behind this word. What is he trying to say? And it's important that the sages chose this to be the title of this. Now, I don't go through any of the English dictionaries. I skip past all of those. I even skip past Strong's definition because what I'm looking for, I want a Hebraic perspective. I don't need more English perspective. So I'll just tell you guys, I don't need all that. So I'm going straight into here. Now I go in here and I go, oh, great. That's a lot of stuff I don't understand. I don't know what any of this means. Oh, but I know scripture verses. So I kind of go through here and you go to where the first one here and you're like, oh, it says to come in or to enter, to return. And for me this morning, when I read that, and that's one of the reasons I hardly have any makeup on this morning. It was because I was bawling my head off. To come in, to enter, to return. And you can keep looking at scrolling through all these, enter into a household of a husband. You're looking for these little things. You just look for these. It's giving you an understanding to come very, very frequently in the Old Testament. Okay, and you can just read through these. Now, let's go here. If you scroll down to the bottom, after you scroll, I've made you sick scrolling so fast. You can see the first usage. There is a law of first usage in studying out Torah. It's called the law of first usage. You'll hear sometimes people say the word hermeneutics. That means the study, the study of something. This is one of those hermeneutic things. So you always want to know, where was this word used for the first time? And then you can look, where else is it used? So if you scroll down, you see the first time it was used was in Genesis 2:19. And in Genesis 2:19, he says, and out of the ground, the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and even the guy jackhammering outside my office right now, and brought them, it's the same word bow, but the English has translated as brought them instead of the same, it's bow, and bowed them unto Adam, to see what he would call them. And then whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was his name thereafter, right? That's what they were called. If you look down, Genesis 2:22 is the second time. And then he bowed the woman unto man. We're going to see this. You can scroll through now and see all the times when that word is used. So some of you who don't know how to use that, I'm going to stop sharing now. I hope that helps. Hope that helps you so that you can see the way that we are to go through systematically and study, because you don't want to just be willy-nilly. Sometimes though, I have done the Lord, I need an answer, but that could be scary. I'm sure you guys can all post some of your scary times. I know you've all done that. Hi from Alaska. Hey, Maggie from Alaska. Okay. So here they are. They are all in Egypt. We've talked about Egypt means Mitzrayim is the name in Hebrew. It's a birthing canal. It's the place that's a narrowing. It's a place where things are birthed out. And have you guys noticed the theme is identity? So the first time this word bow is used, it's used when Adam he says, and then he brought the animals to him to give them their identities, to speak over them what they were, what their names were, what they were going to do. Do you think it's a coincidence now that this whole section is now called bow? The same thing. I believe that he's saying, we're going to bring this in so that we have I want to show you your identity. I need to call some things out over you so that you understand your identity. And it's interesting because we're going to talk about Passover. And he says, you're going to do this for generations. Why do we do this? So you can teach your sons and your grandchildren the story. So you can teach them who they are and who I am. That's why you do this. I'm switching my thing. Okay, so I wrote out, because we're honoring Brenda today, I wrote out what are the letters? The letters that for the word bow are Bet and Aleph. And the word Bet, simple, I'll just give you simple, is a house, right? It's the picture of a home. It's a picture of your house. And the Aleph is his power. And so I just thought of that. He's calling us back into calling them back unto himself. He's calling them back into the home, into the heart, into his presence. He's pulling and drawing us back in. And I am feeling this so heavy for all of us, that he is saying, I want you to let go of all the things that I haven't called you to. I want to let you go of all the identities that you have placed on yourself. I want you to let go of what the world, maybe some of the culture, maybe some of the things that you've brought into yourself. I want you to let it go, and I'm calling you back in, and I want to speak over to you who you are. I want to speak over you what you're supposed to be doing. I want to speak over to you what you need to let go so that you know who you are in me. We talk about this every week. You have your Ephesians prayer. Is it Ephesians 17? Father, that they would have the full revelation knowledge of who they are in you. That's what's happening right now. He wants us this week, like last week, to say, I want to call you out. You know, when a woman is about to give birth, we had a family member have a baby. It was my daughter's birthday yesterday, and she's not happy that she has a birthday twin now. We had someone else who had a baby yesterday, and they knew the sex of the baby. They already knew that it was going to be a male, and they named him Salom, and he's of course beautiful. But before that, we used to not know, but now we know, and now we can start speaking, but we still can speak over the children. We can speak over them in the womb. It's scientifically proven. They actually hear things. They actually can know what's going on. They know their parents' voices. They know music. They know things happening. I'm sure mommies, you all know, if you have a baby in your tummy, you can feel it moving to certain things, and certain things it doesn't like as much as other things. If you're really in tune to that, you kind of know what's going on. That's what's happening. They're in this womb. And he says, I already know who you are. The ultrasound, we don't need it. I already know who you are, and I'm about to give birth to you. I'm going to birth a nation, and the birth, guess what? The birth has to go through the waters. Just like the waters break when you have a baby, we're going to see in the next going forward that there's going to be a breaking of the waters for them to enter into who they are, right? It's going to be amazing. Okay, so we have the Bet and the Aleph, and I want y'all to take your Bibles, if you have them with you, go to John 11. John 11. I want to hang out in the good news for just a minute. Hello, Darlene. Oh, I've seen your happy face. John 11. Alrighty. And also, all y'all in here, if you have something you want to hop in, unmute yourself and just start talking over me. Feel free. Feel free. So if you guys don't mind, I just kind of I'm going to read the whole thing. Now, a man named Lazarus was sick, and he was from Bethany in the village of Miriam and his sister Martha. And this was the name Miriam, who had anointed the master with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair, and was her brother Lazarus, who was sick. So the sisters sent word to Yeshua saying, Master, the one you loved is sick. When Yeshua heard this, he said, the sickness will not end in death. It is for God's glory. So I want you to remember that when Abraham was told that his descendants would be sent to Egypt, that they would get out. They would be there for a period, but he would deliver them. They were already told. So what's happening through this session, we talked about this the last few weeks, is he's reminding them of the covenant that he made with Abraham. I'm going to take you out. You're not staying there as slaves. That's not who you are. So don't take on that identity. And I want us to, he's telling me, he's saying this will not end in death. He's telling you, this is not who you are. I told you who you are, and who you think you are, that's not who you are. He's telling them, this isn't going to end in death, but it's for God's glory, so that Ben Elohim may be glorified through it. Now, Yeshua loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. However, when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed there where he was for a few more days. So when I read that, I was like, how does that have anything to do with this story? And I was reminded the first 3 plagues, the Israelites had to go through the first 3 plagues also. So they could have been a little confused at first. Well, wait. I thought you're supposed to be calling us out. And now what? It could be confusing. Sometimes he does some things in our lives that we're like, what are you doing? This is going the opposite direction. Hello, back over here. That's the wrong way. Yesterday we are staying at the Air Force Base in Little Rock, and they're working on the road. So they had to create a new road so we can get out. Now, if we had to leave, we could not take our 5th wheel with us. We would have to just leave in our truck because the road isn't finished for a couple more weeks. So as we were driving, our GPS was getting all confused because it wasn't a road. It was like a dirt road that they had made for us to get out of this section going through. I mean, it's like this road like this to get out. And I'm laughing because the GPS was like spinning, saying, U-turn, U-turn, go U-turn, U-turn. That's what I can imagine. That's what's happening. And that's what's happening even in this story. And let's see, gosh, keep going. Stop talking about GPS. However, when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was for 2 more days, which could seem like forever, right? Then after this, he said to his disciples, let's go to Judea again. Rabbi, the disciples say to him, just now the Judean leaders were trying to stone you, and you're going to go back there again? And Yeshua answers and says, aren't there 12 hours in a day? If a man walks in the day, he doesn't stumble because he sees the light of the world. We're going to talk about darkness as one of the plagues. What happens in darkness is you're stumbling around. But if you're walking in the light, you're not stumbling. But if a man should walk around at night, he stumbles because the light is not with him. And after he said that, he tells them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going to go there and wake him up. So the disciples said to him, Master, if he's fallen asleep, he will get better. And now Yeshua had spoken about his death and then thought he was talking about ordinary sleep. Then Yeshua told him clearly, Lazarus is dead. It's like, okay, guys, this is not a parable. I know I do that all the time, but he's dead. Okay. He's just not really sleeping. He's dead. Well, I'm glad for your sake, I wasn't there so that you may believe. Anyway, let's go get him. Then Thomas called. So he's saying, I'm glad I wasn't there when he died, because it wouldn't have helped you guys with your faith. If I had been there and if I had raised him from the dead, it would not have helped you with your faith. The same thing is we've talked before about God could have easily just said, boop, button, you guys are out of here, and I'm going to take you right into the promised land. You don't have to go through the journey. You don't have to go through the plagues. You don't have to watch any of this happen. You don't have to smell any of this happening. You don't have to see any of the repercussions. You don't have to experience any of this. But Yeshua says even to them, I'm glad, because this is going to help you with your faith. So the disciples said to him, Master, let's keep going. I'm going to scoot down to 17. So when Yeshua arrived, he discovered that Lazarus had been in the tomb already for 4 days, and Bethany was still 2 miles from Jerusalem. And many of the Judeans had come to Martha and Miriam to console them and their brother. And when Martha heard that Yeshua was coming, she went out to meet him. But Miriam sat in the house. Martha said to Yeshua, Master, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. Now, this is me. This would have been me. I'd be like, listen, if you would have been there, he would not have died. Listen, where have you been? That's me pointing at my watch for those of you listening. He says, Master, where have you been? But I know even now that whatever you ask of God, that he will give you. And Yeshua said to who? Your brother will rise again. And Martha says, well, duh, of course he's going to rise again in the resurrection. Oh, that doesn't say that in my translation, by the way. It doesn't say duh. Martha says, I know he will rise again in the resurrection on that last day. And Yeshua said to her, I am the resurrection and I am the life. And whoever believes in me, even if he dies, shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? And she says to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, Ben Elohim, who has come into the world. And after she said this, she left and secretly told her sister Miriam, the teacher's here and he's calling for you. Well, we know the rest of the story. One of the words that he says to Lazarus is he says, Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus, come. This is what he's telling his children as we go through this. Is we think it's not just the word, it's not just the darkness and the plagues, but we talked about he's the boyfriend who's trying to do the fancy the tricks on the skateboard, so he gets your attention, so that you're like, ooh, he's the cool one, I'm going to pick him. He's saying, come, you're dead, come out of there. And he's not just calling the Hebrews. When we see this, he's calling the mixed multitudes. He's calling anyone who was going to walk along with that. But I want to go back when he says, first of all, I want to speak to the women in this story with Lazarus. Is he saying that she secretly went to go tell her sister? Well, one of the reasons was because they were going to stone him. People were looking for him and they were going to stone him. So she didn't want a bunch of people. The other reason many people don't know is it was lawful for a woman to learn Torah. So because she refers to him as the teacher, It means he's their teacher. And they identified with Yeshua as their teacher, meaning he was teaching them the Torah. He was teaching them the word, not just, oh, go tell the men, this is what's happening. But she secretly didn't want us to call him, oh, the teacher, our rabbi's here, because that wasn't something that they were allowed to do. That's another reason. But he says, he's calling for you. He doesn't want you to miss this. He's calling for you. And I know that that's what's happening right now where we all are. He's calling for you. That's what's happening with the story as we go back into Egypt. And we said, what did he want to do with them? Why is he calling them? He wanted to restore their identity. Why? Because they'd inherited a bunch of lies. Do you know how many times a day that I hear from you ladies that one of the biggest things that's happening, I had discussion with someone yesterday, or was it a day before yesterday, that how angry we get. We get because of the lies that we inherit. And I want to tell you, I can't even count how many times I hear this from all of you. I felt so betrayed when I first came into this, I'll call it the way. I felt betrayed. Like, why didn't my pastors ever teach me this? Why were they telling me all this other stuff? Why did my parents know this? Why didn't this all happen? Can you imagine that this is being shaken up in these families? And he's saying, I want to tell you who you are because you're not a slave. You know, one of the ways that he told them that they weren't slaves anymore and that they didn't have power over them. Have you ever thought nothing is a coincidence? When God tells Moses to go in and talk to Pharaoh again, he says, go. This is in the very first section of this. He says, go. It's where the word comes from. It can be go. This can be come to me, all those words. He wants him to go before Pharaoh. And he says, I want you to put your hand in the furnace, grab some ashes, and I want you to throw it out in the wind. And it's going to be ucky. It's going to turn into locust, and not just like a little locust. Like my chickens used to love, like when the grasshoppers were everywhere, they were so happy and they just run around eating grasshoppers. Not like that kind of locust. Like everything is covered in locust. And it's like when you look at, like, if you're an Egyptian and you looked outside at your chariot parked in the garage, it would be like, look like it was moving, like buzzing, because there'd be locusts all over it. Or, I mean, imagine everything covered, like everything is covered and moving. And so he says, put your hands into the furnace. Well, what was the furnace was used? Those ashes, those were the ashes that were used to make bricks. That this is showing that everything that was used to make those bricks, these furnaces, I'm going to use the dust of that to bring destruction. I have power over this. You are not a slave anymore. I am taking you out of this. And I'm not going to dive into that, but I want you to look into that. I want you to look into the little things like, well, why did he have to get ash out of a furnace? It all means something. It all means something. It's part of him telling them, you are not a slave. He knew that they needed a reminder of their identity. We are talking about identity all the time, like how people being in identity crises. We talked about your names. We did go into that, how it was fun. Do we do that on Tuesday Talk, Misty? When did we talk about this? I think it might have been. Was it here? Oh, it was. Whoo, we got crazy out here. We go into, what does your name mean? What does that even mean? What does that even look like? Who am I? What are people? My husband afterwards, I was explaining that. He's like, oh, I want to know what my name means. And it was really fun because he had never knew. Of course, he'd never listened to me say this 500 times. Shh, hope he doesn't listen to this. But, they don't hear us sometimes. They hear other people better, just like our children. So he says, I didn't know that. And I looked up his name. I was looking up Elder, and his name means that he's like a wolf, or the edges of a shield, a protected wolf or edges of a shield. If anyone knows my husband, it was like, of course, that was being proclaimed to him through his whole life. Is that really loud, you guys? Do you hear that? Sorry, I apologize. It's like literally they're using a jackhammer right outside my window. Of course. Of all the days. Okay. So One of the other things that's happening is that he's established the way that he's telling us, I want you to come meet with me. I want to tell you about your identity. For all of you ladies, especially if you're brand new into this, and this, it feels like a free fall because you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you do know, and everything you do know you think might be a lie, and you're questioning everything. He's wanting to restore your identity. And one of the ways he's doing that is he establishes a few things. And the word is moed. Now, the Moedim, you'll hear us say that word. The Moed we're developing, I know Misty's working, we're going to put some glossary together so you guys have terms that you understand. But what that means when you hear us talk about that is those are established, appointed times. And why? Because he just wants to have a date on the calendar, like Mother's Day, and he wants to have his day. No, he wants to meet with us. It's a date, girls. It's a date. He's saying, I want to set a date with you so that we can connect. I want some connection time with you. One of those is Shabbat. One of those is every Friday at sundown. He's saying from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, I want to connect with you. It's a date night, sister. I want to, and you can share it with your family if you want. And yes, I want you to get them excited about it. But secretly, it's just a time when he's going to tell you who you are. For me, it's a time that it's restoring and refreshing, of course. But if you are in that portal, in that alignment with his Moedim, with his Moed times, you're going to see he's restoring who you are. And that's what he's establishing right now. This is the first Passover, is our first festival. This is the first feast. We're going to see the Feast of the Unleavened Bread. Okay, so he's establishing these appointed time for us to meet. And that's what Passover is all about. It's a time to learn and prep and plan for your family. We have time. You have time, you guys. We have time to do that still. Look at your calendar. Oh my gosh, someone look it up and post it. When is Passover this year? I think the end of March. Yee, quick. I know, Misty, that's the face I just made inside. When is Passover? You still have time. And you girls, please don't kill yourselves trying to think, oh my gosh, I have to do all the things. And because I've been there, I went crazy extreme, thought I had to do everything right, say everything the right way in Hebrew, go through all the protocols, do all the stop. Because he just wants you to meet with him and take on the things, we say this all the time, to your family, into your traditions that work for your family, that help you memorialize and help you honor the time he's set apart that he wants to meet with you, so that you can teach your children. Even if you're by yourself and you do your own little Seder, do that. Do it so that you remind yourself. Let him remind you of who you are. Okay, so does someone figure when it is? I'm going to look. I'm not looking at our messages, so I'll go. Oh, March 27th at sundown. See, you have plenty of time. So I encourage you, for those of you who feel okay with this, we have, for my grandkids, I'll give you an example. When we're doing the kids, we'll do little things like little froggies, and they can throw them around at each other when we talk about making it fun, or we, cotton balls, or we throw it like it's hail, just so they understand and they have a memory of it, because every child learns differently. You know how your children learn. So you incorporate those things for them of how they learn. All right. Does anyone watch the show called The Midwife? I love that little show. It's on Netflix. I know. Stop. Don't hate me. I don't want them to hate mail. It's on Netflix. It's called Call the Midwife. It is the cute. It's a British show, and it's. I cry all the time because it's all about these midwives going in, like pre and post war, delivering babies in people's homes, and it is beautiful with all these little stories. It is, well, if your child is old enough to watch a baby being born, it's child appropriate. It's beautiful. But the reason that I love it is that you can watch it and it's clean, and there's not going to be naked people or bad words. But I love it because he tells us in 11:1, in Exodus 11:1, says, now Adonai had said to Moses, I will bring one more plague upon Pharaoh and on Egypt, and after that he will let you go from here. And when he lets you go, he will surely thrust you out altogether from there. Now, I have been watching this show, so I've seen a lot of babies been born, and I personally have delivered a few babies. And you girls who've had babies, when your baby's ready to come, it thrusts out. And we're saying Mitzrayim, we see that as a birth canal. We see that as a narrowing of places. So when he's saying, I want you to be ready, because when it's time, it's going to be quick. And he's going to thrust you out. It's not going to be, he's not saying, oh, he's going to let you go. He doesn't say that here. And that's a word. And again, it's in 11:1, Exodus 11:1. That's one of the words I want you to look up. I want you to look up that word in the Blue Letter Bible and say, what is that? What is, I think it's like violently throw you out. I mean, this isn't a happy word. He's going to send a parade. He says he's going to thrust you out. It's going to happen and he's going to thrust you out. Okay, so then what does he said I want you to do? I want you to take a lamb or a goat. I want you to watch over the 14th day. That's a whole nother day. We could literally spend a whole time talking together about, they have to take this lamb or this goat. You choose it and you want to pick a lamb or a goat that's going to be just enough for you, because the reason you have to do that is because it has to be, you may have to share. Like if you have a small family, you may combine with another family. The reason is because you need to eat all of it. There can't be any left over. And I thought, what's the big deal? You left, if he thrusts you out and you have to get up and leave, you leave the leftovers. What's the big deal? Who cares? Can you guys tell me? I want to hear what could be some big deals? What could be a big deal with leaving the leftover Passover lamb? If they just left it over. Anybody? Caitlin, go.
I was thinking that it related directly to Yeshua. He didn't just give a part of himself, he gave all of himself for us, because if he had partially given himself, there wouldn't be the full blood atonement for us to be saved, for us to know him fully. He needed to give himself fully.
And it's even the entrails, it's all of it. And it was sacred, right? So we also, we're not going to leave anything that's sacred to people who aren't going to treat it sacredly. And it's going to putrefy. We're not holding it in the high regard, like you were saying. He says later, I am the Passover lamb. You hear John announce it. Behold, the lamb that takes away the sins of the world. He calls him the lamb, like instantly. And when he's coming to be baptized, when he's coming in for his mikvah, he says, behold, the lamb. Everyone there would have known what that meant. Everyone would have known, oh, he's the Passover lamb. So that deserves some time from all of us to spend some time saying, what is the Passover lamb? Why is that even important? Now, I did interesting is that, we talk about putting the blood on the doorpost. Some people will put some pretty fabric all over their doorpost. That's probably what's going to happen at my house. That's usually we put like the little, put the little fabric over it. So we're not slopping like, blood or anything up around. That's not us. But the process took careful consideration. Caitlin, if there's just 3 of you and there's 2 of us, that would be a lot. So we may need to bring another family in so that we could it caused us everyone to come together in careful consideration. We had to take care of this goat or this lamb for several days. So it wasn't, we knew this lamb intimately. We had to take care of this lamb intimately and get to know it. It wasn't just like it had to be a perfect lamb. It had to go under, it had to go under the rod and check to make sure it was okay. It came brought in. Now it's interesting to me, not just that they ate it all. It's interesting to me that they, I did not know this today. I learned this, is that if, it says that only if you're not circumcised, you cannot, meaning the males, that if you're not circumcised, you couldn't eat the lamb, because the lamb would have to be something that would have been brought to the temple. It would have gone through all this stuff, because we don't have a temple anymore. And because that we actually aren't even supposed to have lamb at our seders. Y'all look that up and tell me, because I was reading about that today and it was saying, there was a question with people say, well, I'm a Gentile. Do I not eat the lamb? Or I'm, if someone isn't circumcised, do they not eat the lamb? Well, the thing is that the lamb was the only thing was that they can eat everything, but they weren't supposed to eat the lamb. They can participate in a Seder. You can participate in all these things, because some people are saying, well, you're not Jewish. You're not Jewish. Why are you even doing this? Well, because I'm commanded to do it for all eternity. The only thing it says I'm not to do is probably to eat the lamb, because I can't go into the temple. There's no temple. I can't go there. I can go into his temple. I can go into his courts. So pray about that. And y'all get back to me. I'm interested to hear all of your input on that, of anything you've learned, because that was something new. And I probably shouldn't even have brought that up right now. That's a can of worms, but it was something new that just came down to me. I was like, wow, I want to look into that a little more about what this all looks like. But when we go, we have the festival of the unleavened bread that kind of goes alongside of that. Does anyone want to share like their insight the festival of the unleavened bread? We know Passover. Passover was the 10th plague. You put the blood on the post, the death angel passes over. Actually, we have a really great teaching in the cafe about this, about it would have been very well known back then about putting blood. It's when you enter someone's home, that would have been a covenant to that you enter the covenant of that home. Super great teaching. So those of you who are in there, go in there and check out the Parsha point for this week, because it's really good. It's stuff I had never learned before, but we won't go in there. Anyone who wants to share? Carol, come on. What's your insight? What's your insights on the feast, the festival of unleavened bread?
I was trying to unmute myself. I think there's a lot of misconception on what the unleavened is. It's not just getting like yeast bread out of your home. It's getting false teachings out of your home, false doctrine. So I think that's huge when you come to the understanding of what the yeast is.
Very good. So for a long time, I didn't understand, well, what's the difference between the Feast of the Unleavened Bread and Passover? Like, what's the difference? The difference is that the Feast of Unleavened Bread actually lasts 7 days long.
Yes.
Passover is just the event, right? But the Feast of Unleavened Bread actually lasts 7 days. And the process is that you were to get rid of, what he was telling them is, I want you to get rid of all of what's in the, I want you to get rid of the yeast out of your home. But it wasn't, I kind of had a different understanding this morning. I kind of want to, can I just share with you what I kind of feel like dropped in my heart? It wasn't just, there was a practical reason for this. And you know, we can go, there's a real practical, because what had happened is they had taken on so many things you're used to. Now, I want to see here, I'm a bread maker. I want to hear who's the bread makers in the bunch, because I like go to the bakery and buy my challah. So Caitlin's a bread maker. I want to know how many of you have, I might ruin something for you right now. How many of you have starter batches that you've had passed down for generations? Anyone have any starter yeast that they have passed down? I hear it a lot. I have women who have like starter, and you probably all know why. You have starter yeast that they've passed down for generations. Caitlin, why? What would be the big deal about having a starter yeast in your home that you've kept from grandparent to grandparent to grandparent to make your bread? And it's the Feast of Unleavened. What's supposed to happen?
Sorry, I haven't, I guess, like I buy my yeast store bought, but I know that before I started celebrating Shabbat, I had realized that there was a very close relation to Italian Easter bread and challah bread, and that recipe for the Easter bread that I had known very well, that's almost identical to the challah that I make, had been passed down probably from my great grandmother all the way to me. And it's just that special tradition that we would hold on to, and my grandmother would make it every year for the whole family. And it was just something special that we did as a family to remember Christ and what he did. And I remember I would take a lot of time just learning from her. And she had to make large batches of it, of course, because there was 5 siblings in the family, and like I'm one of 30 cousins, so you know it had to be shared with everybody equally. And yeah.
Did you guys have a starter batch? Did she start fresh every year with a new batch, or did she have a starter batch?
I think that she started fresh. She started fresh.
So I know ladies who have starter batches, and you might have heard this during COVID, that we have women who have passed on, the passing around the sourdough, right? Sourdough starters. Have you heard of this? I saw some messages over here. There's some of the ladies, they're right in the middle. Ashley said she's right in the middle of making her challah right now. There's a few girls in here saying, I'm making my challah right now. Send some my way. But what happens is you're passing down this starter, and this starter already has the bacteria, the fermentation in it. It has the yeast. It's already ready to go. So all you have to do then is put it into your fresh batch that you've made, and quickly it rises. Or you can go to the store and get now we have the quick yeast. We have the quick batches. The other way, and I mean, I'm not a baker. The other way is you could actually make your dough and you sit it out, and there's natural yeast that's going to actually come in, natural yeast that will come into your dough and the dough will naturally start to ferment and start to rise, right? There's a natural process that happens just by leaving it out into the air. So I ask you to put on like your spiritual cap a little bit. The practicality of this is he's saying you don't have time to go through that process. So I want to relieve you of the process, women, that you think you have to make this bread a certain way, all the way you've always done it. You're going to have to sit the dough out and you won't have anything to eat because you're not going to be prepared to go. I'm going to say, I want you to make bread quick, get it ready, get it done, because you are going to be thrust out. Let's go back. Pharaoh says, I'm going to thrust you out. I'm getting you out of here. So I want you to be ready. So he's saying, in order to do that, I need you to get rid of how you know how to do it. I want to get rid of all the ways you think this is how it's supposed to happen. Is anybody else feeling that in your life right now? Like he's telling you, I want to get rid of some things that you think you know it's supposed to be done a certain way. And he's saying, I need you to minimize. I need you to simplify. You don't have time for the dough to sit out for a long time. We all know we can go through chametz. We can go through, I am going to read a couple things about that. You know, we said we've equated it to sin, missing the mark. We know that. But what about the practicality of they had to have bread ready to eat, ready to go, quick, get out, and not sit out in a bowl, because they may have had starter dough. They may have had the starter dough, maybe that they just would pop in there. I would guess yes, to speed the process up. Otherwise, it would just sit out there and it would have to collect the yeast from the air. And that's the reason why he's saying, I want you to clean that. Now we do where spring cleaning came from. You clean your whole house, you get rid of everything in there, which means if you have starter dough, you get rid of everything. You still don't have any of that in your home. I mean, that would be hard for some people to get rid of starter dough that might have been from their great, great, great grandma. But can I just tell you, I've inherited some starter dough from my great, great, great grandma that maybe I've been holding on to. Maybe it's an idea, a concept. Maybe it's something that I think I need to move forward and I can't move on without it because it's a belief. It's a system that I have to have. I have to go. It's a label I need to move on. And he's saying, I want you to clean house. It's time to simplify. Simi, you're unmuted. What's up?
Well, you're talking about practicality, and what goes to my mind, I have to start from the real to take it to the spiritual, right? So the real event, we know they just had Passover. Scripture says they took their bread and they left in a hurry and no time to leaven. So they're taking their bread, their dough, and they're not letting it leaven. And actually nowadays, there is a timing that if you go a little bit, if you're making your matzah during Passover, if you go a little bit over and it, leavens a little bit, is no good. So
I think it's 17 minutes. Does anyone know? I think it's 17 or 18 minutes. If it goes past that, there's leaven in it. So
right. So well, I've heard different. I've heard 12. I've heard 15. Yeah, I've heard different times. But anytime I guess before 18, which is the number of life, probably is going to be a good guess, right?
Yeah, that's good.
What I was thinking more about, it's like my mind just goes straight to the menorah and the days of creation. So if you think about your Passover, and I'm trying to make this very personal to each one of you, or to each one of us, because that my yearly Passover is unique. This year will most likely not be at all like last year or the year before because we learn things new. Like was it Caitlin that was saying about false teachings? We learn to discern from things that we have learned, if they were really biblical or just man-made theology, etc. So go with me. So day one, Passover. And day one, light comes out of the darkness. So think of your walk with the Lord, personal, and it will be totally different for each one of us. And it's supposed to. We're all unique. We're all cleaning up ourselves to be the best representative, the best image bearer, with God's seal on us, unique name in each one of us, right? So that you bring it to him, and as you're coming out, because we're constantly coming out of darkness, constantly, thank God. So we ask him, what are you dealing with me? What is it? So he brings light out of darkness. He brings something to you, and you go, oh, okay, I'm going to deal with that.
Mm.
So then you go to day 2. So he takes you out of Egypt. Okay, he takes that out of darkness. That means it's no longer shackled to darkness, shackled to slavery. He takes the burden off our shoulders and said, just look at it face to face, just look at it and deal with it. So we have to go to day 2. In day 2 is when he separated the waters. Upper waters represent our spiritual walk. Lower waters represent our earthly walk, right? It's the closest to the earth. So you're thinking about, what about that you're showing me? What's the teaching behind that? What's spiritual about it? Let's dig that Bible, take it out, take the word apart, see what each one of those words mean, and really understand what is it that he's showing you. Okay, so you're diligent, you're separating, you're building, is the spirit of Bina. You're building, preparing all the materials so you can build a house, right? Because we have to build our ark. And every year we have to build our ark. We have to, whatever we prepare, we get in. So we have to be diligent on that. Okay, so I'm making my ark, and it's like, nope, this is not, doesn't go up here. This goes on here. Okay, so you start dividing. So during those 7 years, and think about it, 7 days, think about it. 7 is the number of perfection, of completion. So God wants that thing that he brought to your mind. He wants to deal with it, and he wants to complete it. 7 days, right? So in 7 days, you are searching, you are withholding something that is pleasurable, like it is a nice, fluffy, just soft bread in your mouth with this cracker that is not as pleasant, not as tasteful. It may not have the honey that you would maybe put in your challah. It may not have, seeds and things like that. So it's just plain bread. Because what he wants is, there's 2 leaven. There is the leaven that leavens our flesh, and there is the leaven that makes this a good bread. So he wants us to take everything out. He doesn't want any fluffs, any, things that make want our flesh to go with. It's just make it clean, make it simple. Don't let a lot of things distract you. And then during those 7 days, you're just bringing your heart to him. And you're talking about the temple. We are the temple of the living God. You're talking about sacrifice. He is our sacrifice. That's what we celebrate in Passover. He is our lamb. So can we eat the lamb? But in my book, yes, I can eat the lamb. My heart has been circumcised. I have been cleansed by him. His water mikvah me already, and I can with all my heart, I can go into this Seder and say, yes, that is my lamb. I put his blood, on my feet, my hands, my heart, my mind, all the things that we can apply to, my walk, what the things I do, the things I think, the things I feel, all of that. I'm putting the blood of the lamb on that, right? So, and I was in bondage to that you've just brought to me, Abba. Thank you for bringing light on this. I didn't know it was that bad, but I will deal with this. So for 7 days, you are searching your heart. And then we know that at the end of it, you will have that, that resurrection. That what he intended, he that started the good work in you is faithful. So know that he will finish it. If you're diligent, you're seeking him, he will complete it. And do I face that again? I may. It depends how deep the roots of that is. Sometimes he has to just prune some branches, because if he cuts that tree, oh my goodness, the hole that he's going to leave in me may be unbearable. So just like he didn't, get rid of all the people in the land when the Canaanites, when they went into the promised land, because the wild beasts could have been more than they could handle.
Right.
And we know what wild beast stands for. Besides the natural, it could be us. We can bite each other to the point that we just become, a puddle. So we think about all those things, and just don't worry what somebody else is doing. Don't worry if they were able to do this and the other. Well, it's okay. Thank God. Go for it. More power to you. It's okay. We're all in our own walk. Please don't
Yes.
compare your walk to somebody else's, because
good.
that's a slavery. That's another
good.
unbearable thing. It's like, oh, I can never be like her, and or thank God I'm not like her. If we do that, we put our eyes where they don't belong. Remember,
Yes.
separate waters. The eyes are up here with the beautiful fiery waters, the Shemaim that are just sparkling, inviting. They purge you. That's what that fire, we never hear that Isaiah when he said the coals touch his lips, he could never touch her forever because it burned his tongue, right? So we know that wonderful fire is to cleanse us, to strengthen us. The next thing Isaiah says is, here I am, send me, Lord. So that's what the fire is for. So
I love that.
I have to say about that.
No, I love that. And I love that you brought that. There's so many things, because what happens is, because we're throwing all these old ways out, what my old ways might be are not what he's telling you to throw out this year. What I'm cleaning my house doesn't mean don't come into my house and clean my house based on because my cleaning and your cleaning might be completely different. He's telling us to do different. We heard that one servant is allowed to do something and another servant may not be allowed. So stay in your lane, sisters, and love each other wherever lane. Wave at each other and honk, but don't use bad fingers at each other. Don't say bad things to each other because you think they're in the wrong lane, or they're cutting you off. They're not. We're all in our different lanes, and we all may need to clean our house different. But when you're going through this and you're looking at this, and he's saying, I want you to clean your house out. I want you to throw out the old ways, everything that you're relying on this process of fermentation. It's going to slow you down because you've taken on a process for the moment. For this moment, not forever, but for right now, I need you to be in a mindset that you need to get up and go for 7 days. I need a mindset shift. And, we are 100%, girls, we love our mindset work. But you need to change your mind. And this is a perfect time during this season. You have this feast coming up that you get to work on your mind, renew your mind. I believe that this is also meaning this is part of being born again. This is part of us being able to come out, because this is that birth canal where you're getting rid of everything that's old, getting rid of all the things that were holding you bondage. When he says, Father, how do I serve you? You must be born again. Well, this is one of the ways you get to do that. Yes, of course, I believe. Yes, you believe in Yeshua. Yes. Okay. If you don't know us, then you're going to probably go crazy with that. But if you know us, you know our heart. What you have to be, one way you be born again is you go through the waters. They didn't take the yeast with them through the waters. The fermentation didn't come. They got up and left, and they had to be able to leave. But they did get to take a few things, right? They did get some things from the Egyptians. And I love that you brought up darkness, because we are not going to have time to go into that. But I love this, ladies. I want you to look at this. In chapter 10, 21 through 29, one of the plague of darkness. Look at that. Choshech. That is the root. I want you to look up what's the root of that. I do not have it written down. I have it that this is my study. Here's a sneak peek into my study the next couple days. I wrote in my sneak peek for my study the next 2 days, the deconstruction of the creation story. What happened is the Egyptians had tried to take over all the things that our Father had created. And so he comes in and deconstructs. My granddaughters, they won't eat a taco. We have to deconstruct it. We have to pull it into different parts, and then they'll eat the parts maybe, but they won't eat it all as one taco, right? So what he's doing here, we see him deconstructing and showing them again who's powerful. And guess what? Before he shows life, bringing the life on that day, he shows the darkness. And I sat down and started making notes. What happens in the light? The light tells us the time. The light sets our circadian rhythm. If you study what darkness, what happens when you are not, there's scientific studies Simi, you will love this. Scientific studies, white papers are written on this. This actually blew my mind a little. One thing, it says that darkness makes you more likely to lie, cheat, make mistakes, see crazy things. I know that you'll have hallucinations that you don't normally see. It does increase disease and cancer risks, but it decreases your ethical behaviors. If you're in darkness for a long time, it decreases your ability to make ethical choices because you're in the dark. So what does light do? It activates an internal clock. It activates a circadian rhythm. It stimulates your hypothalamus so that when that light hits your eye, it resets it so that you sleep. If you have sleep disorders, any ladies out there, I highly recommend you go out between morning hours and let the light hit you in the eyes so that it can reset your. Some of us are in these different lights that are not natural lighting all day long, and we forget that we need to go outside and actually get our circadian rhythm reset. Go ahead. I'll let you go because I'm gonna look up something real quick.
Oh, I just wanted to you reminded me of something about the leaven. You had mentioned how there's leaven in all our houses. Like if I pass you my starter kit, your bread will still, even though it has my starter, will still taste different than mine because it pulls in the yeast of your house.
Yes.
So that's why, you know, breads from here and breads from there, they're just special because they have their own yeast.
They have their own yeast.
Yeah. So think about that. Why didn't he want the yeast from Egypt to leave with them?
Because it would always be with them.
Yes, he didn't want the yeast of Egypt, the yeast of slavery, the yeast from that darkness, the yeast. And, you know, you're talking about ethical. Our mind, what rules our body. We have to remember always that it doesn't matter what you believe. You can believe in God. You don't believe in him. You can believe in the broom or the chair or the floor. It doesn't matter. The breath that keeps you alive is the breath of God. And there is no darkness in him. It's very clear in scripture, right?
None.
So that means that whatever is going on up here, he has a perfect, God is perfect. So he's perfect. He's love. He is all ethical principle, to the max, right? So if me is going the opposite as him, I'm constantly battling. What happens in our body physically when we're constantly battling something? What does it weakens? Your immune system. So it weakens your ethical, the way you think, because you're not letting him help you think. You're trying to get him out of the throne and you want to sit on it. And you want to be the one making the rules and deciding what's right and wrong. But also that fight weakens your immune system. Your immune system is trying to stay. We want homeostasis. We always want to be balanced. So when we're not balanced, our body is fighting to be balanced. So we're weakening it.
Yes.
Our poor body is fighting a ghost. Is fighting something that doesn't exist, but it doesn't matter. It's using all the ammunition, and when it needs it, doesn't have it. So true enemy comes in, a virus, sickness, whatever, and our poor immune system is there without any ammunition to fight.
Well, this was such a dark, that is so good because this was such a dark, we just have to understand what darkness is. They had 3 full days of a darkness that we cannot comprehend unless you've gone down into like the Murphy's Caverns or one of those caverns and they turn the light off and you can't even see your hand in front of your face. The difference with those is that they will put on a little light, a match or something, and you'll see that one little light will light everything back up again. All it takes is a spark. The difference with this plague, it says that no artificial light would even penetrate it. It was a darkness that it was palpable. You could feel it. Can you imagine the heaviness? I believe that he removed his presence from their area because he was the light. When he came in, the first thing he's like, light be. And I believe he deconstructed those words over Egypt and he took light, don't be. So his presence, my opinion, was gone. So there was no light. It was so heavy. It was deep, deep dark. There was no separation between the light and the darkness. They were deep in everything, not him. And I mean, can you imagine? We can imagine that. But something I had not imagined before that I thought of this morning. What happens when the lights came back on? How long does that? I mean, can you imagine how painful that was? Can you imagine the process, the disorientation? 3 days. After 3 days, you guys can go nerd out like I do and look up science after 3 days with no light. 3 days. Oh wait, 3 was in the grave. 3 days. We can talk about 3 days. That's 3 days. That's significant. None of this. Every year you can pick one little section and dive deep into. But when they had to turn there was a reason that he waited that long. And one of the reasons I think is I mean, can you imagine the disorientation when the lights came back on? They were disoriented so that the children could leave. Then all of a sudden there's death and they're disoriented. There's death and disorientation happening all around them. And then they were shot out. Get out, get out, get out. What would happen today if you heard those words? Get out, get out, get out. Oh my goodness. A lot of us are hearing those words, prepare, prepare. I want to just leave you guys with this. I'm going to share from Halisa's book. Some of you guys who don't have her stuff, I'll get it posted on for you. It's in her workbook 5, and she does go through each one of the portions, and I'm going through the one for Shemot. So that's what I'm in, and it's on page 93, 92 and 93, and I'm actually going to read it. She says similar patterns exist with other words, and she's talking about how words can be, you can, when we have water, H2O, if you change H2O to HO2, it's a whole different compound. Even though it's the same letters, it's a different compound, and it can be dangerous. Okay. It's actually like hydrogen, oxygen, it's the same molecules, but they're rearranged. It's the same thing in Hebrew. So I want to share with you changing the word for leaven. This was so interesting to me, and I'm going to leave you guys with this. Similar patterns exist with other words, such as Tzmach, it's Tzmach, is the righteous branch that we pray for each day in the Shemoni Azrei. He is the vine whose branches that we are, that spread and grow over the whole world, bringing life, shade, food, and drink from its fruit. When you spell Tzmach backwards by hardening or uncircumcision of Pharaoh's heart, and reverse the positive life that was intended for man's flesh, Tzmach becomes chametz, or leaven, which represents the small sin that spreads through the whole group like a small piece of leavened dough leavens a whole lump. The chametz represents the old man or the old lady who swallowed the fly and frogs and dogs, not to know a man. She does a little story there. I don't know why she swallowed the fly. I guess she'll die. Remember the old song? So she says, you become like the old man or the old lady who swallowed the flies and the frogs and the dogs, not the new man living in submission to the Ruach HaKodesh that Yeshua sent on Shavuot, just as Moses received the written and spoken Torah on Shavuot. He was preparing them to receive. He was preparing them so that they would be able, if they left all of that, they'd, like Simi was saying, they left Egypt, they left the fragrance of Egypt, because he wanted to give them the fragrance of Messiah. He was about to pour out, on Shavuot, he's going to 40 days later, he's going to pour Shavuot over them. He's going to bring his spirit over them. And they can't receive that if he's full of this other stuff. He wants to be the vine. He wants to be your branches. He wants to be the thing that fills you up, not this other stuff that's in our lives. So this is a practical application of a crazy story that we talk about every single year, of some things that happen. But what a beautiful story that we get to share with our children in our home. And what a beautiful season as it's coming up, as you prepare. We see it starts the evening of March 27th this year, as you prepare your homes and you clean and you get ready, and you do it as a way, just jokingly, as not just cleaning your house, like, oh, I have to get the yeast out. But are you cleaning your heart and your mind? And as Simi was saying, am I presenting this like, what do I need to give up? What is infiltrating that I don't want to take into the next thing, because I want to receive your full spirit. I want you to be my spirit. I want you to be what flows through me. Empty me, Father. Empty me that these earthen vessels can be filled with the wine that you make for the wedding, right? My vessel's empty. It's empty. I've poured out all kinds of, I'm going to pour out everything because I want you to change this water into your wine so that it blesses so many people. So I bless you all this week. I just bless you as you go about this week. I pray that you marinate in this story, that you take out one or two words and just marinate on them and chew on them and take the time to say, Father, what is it that you want to work on me for these 7 days? Right? This 7 days. You'll see Simi now going, 7 days. You're 7. What are the things you want to work on? One thing. What one thing this next 7 days? What mindset is not serving me well? What mindset is the chametz, is the leaven that's ruining the whole lump? What's the mindset? Because you're wanting to tell me who I am, who my identity is. How do I work that out with you, Father? Let's get rid of that so that next week we can work on another one. And then another one. And then he says, I want you to be perfect because I'm perfect. I want you to be like me. I'm the vine and you're the branches. You're not the chametz. You're the other, right? That's who you are. You are in me. You're grafted into me. You're not grafted into that chametz. You're not grafted into that stuff that you can't take out. So be blessed, ladies. Father, I ask that you bless them, that you keep them. Turn your face to shine upon them. Fill them with your joy this week so that they're strengthened. Their arms are strong for the tasks ahead. Father, you reveal to them their identity, who they are in you, not who they are in this label that maybe they've put on, or who they are in something they've inherited, or who they are in a religion, but who they are in you. Father, I thank you as you sweep it all away, Father, and you just pour their identity over them, and they know who it is, and they rise up as your daughters. They rise up in their identity in you, Father. Lord, we just honor and give you glory. Thank you for the shalom that you're pouring into every home. As you grab their faces, panea, and breathe life into them so that they can then open the windows as the Isha windows and bring the revelations into their home. Lord, we meet with you. We all can't wait for our date nights tonight with you as we start a whole 24 hours as your portal opens to download. Prepare us, Father. Amen. Well, ladies, we're excited. We have an after party. I did want to share, I put a note for all of you. If you're all ready to go. I'm going to stop the recording, I think. Yep. Nope, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep it in case someone else. Nope, I'm stopping the recording. I'll make up my mind in a minute.